The October 2013 meeting of the Monroe County Legislature will now come to order. Will the legislators please take their seat? Will the clerk please call the roll?
President Adair.
Here.
Mr. Ansello. Here. Miss Andrews. Here. Mr. Antelli. Here. Mr. Barker. Here. Mr. Baroth. Here. Miss Boyce. Here. Dr. Carbone. Here. Mr. Colby. Here. Mr. Daniele. Here. Mrs. Draw. Here. Mr. Gamble is excused. Mr. Gamina. Here. Mr. Haney. Mr. Hanna. Mr. Howland, Miss Kaylee, Mr. John Lightfoot, Mr. Willie Lightfoot is excused, Mr. McCann, Mr. Michike, Mr. Morelli, Mr. Patterson, Dr. Quattro, Mr. Rocco, Mr. Tucciarello, Mrs. Valerio, Mr. Wilcox, Mr. Yolovich.
All set, folks? At this time, I'd like to introduce the Reverend Tina Simpson of the First Unitarian Church, who's been invited here tonight by Legislator Paul Haney. Where's yours?
With the deepest respect for the separation of church and state, tonight I will not invoke any name for God, but rather I ask you to join me in the spirit of meditation and human compassion. Please settle into your seats and silently acknowledge the hard-working men and women in this room, and open your heart to my words. We arrive tonight from different places, as individuals from different backgrounds and life experiences, as individuals who represent various corners of our great county, and as people of different political parties, we hold an array of guiding life values. And different though we may be, tonight, you join together as one body, charged with representing disparate needs. This is hard work. As you prepare for the evening ahead, I ask that together you invoke three essential guides for your work: courage, compassion, and commitment. May you find deep inside your heart the courage to dream a healthier, less fragmented society. May you show compassion to one another as you wrestle with diverse opinions and seek collaboration while holding the good of all as a guiding beacon in your struggle. May you remain committed to this work and understand deeply that the efforts you make on behalf of others do change lives, save lives, and make our community what it is today. We ask this of ourselves and of each other as we work to heal and hold our beloved community. Amen.
Legislator Mike Patterson will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Legislator Patterson. You've received the copies of the journal for day 11, September 10th, 2013. Without exception, that journal is going to stand approved as submitted. There's a hearing loop in place tonight to assist those who are hearing impaired. Anyone requiring assistance should inquire at the clerk's office.
If you have a cellular phone, pager, or other electronic device in your possession, we would request that you make it silent for the duration of the meeting, and we thank you for your cooperation.
Legislators, the referrals for the next committee cycle are in your folders for tonight. At this time, I would like to recognize in our audience the supervisor from the town of Wheatland, Linda Dobson, and the town attorney, John Glavin. Welcome. At this time, it's with a great honor that I introduce Mr. Mark Quinn from Monroe County Parks Department, who is going to let us know what this month's plan of the month is.
Good evening. Thank you. The plant of the month this month, as you can see up front, is a coneflower. Coneflowers are named for the cone-shaped flower head they have. Unlike many of the plants I brought in past months, this plant is a native to our area. It's native to the plains of New York, or the plains states, as well as New York and eastern states. There's about 9 species, or there is 9 species. There's many, many varieties. It's become very popular. It's a very nice perennial. It has a lot of wildlife attributes. It attracts butterflies to your garden as well as bees. And if you leave the flower heads on in the fall, it'll attract goldfinches. It's relatively deer resistant, although they will eat it if you have a lot of deer in your yard. But it's not their favorite food, so it does pretty well out there. It comes in a variety of colors now. The original species were all purple, but now you can get them in reds and pinks and whites. We have some yellow up here. So the horticulturalists have introduced a large number of species out there. It likes an environment of full sun. It can get away with a little shade, but your colors won't be quite as good if you put it in a shady spot. It does well in poor soils, but doesn't like a wet soil, so it needs to dry out. Once it's been established, it becomes very drought tolerant. It's a very tough plant. Very pretty in the garden. It blooms from about August through just about the first hard frost. So they're kind of nice this time of year when other things are starting to fade out. They are a perennial, so they'll grow year after year. They will self-seed some of the older varieties. The more fancy type varieties you probably have to buy because they probably won't reseed true to what they were, seeing their hybrids. They're very nice plants in the garden, and again, a lot of nice variety, good wildlife plant. Thank you.
Mark, before you leave the podium.
Okay.
Very good, thank you. I would like to let everyone know that today is Mark Quinn's birthday. I wanted to wish him a happy birthday.
Well, thank you.
Now go do something special now, okay? Sounds good. All right, good, thank you. This evening there's several proclamations scheduled. Madam Clerk.
Would Irene D'Agostino please come forward? Also President Jeffrey R. Adair and Legislator Mike Rocco. Hello. That's all right. You won them. You can wear them. Whereas from July 19th to August 1st, the National Swim Games were held in Cleveland, Ohio. Over 10,800 senior athletes participated in 19 sports. Brockport resident Irene D'Agostino was one of them. This super senior participated in the Empire State Senior Games, where she qualified to compete in the 3-day national competition. And whereas at the National Swim Games, Irene competed and placed in many competitions, including second in the 500-yard freestyle, second in the 200-yard intermediate race, second in the 100-yard intermediate, second in the 50-yard butterfly, fourth in the 200-yard freestyle, and 7th in the 100-yard freestyle. And whereas swimming is a pastime for the D'Agostino family, all 4 of Irene's children swam at Brockport High School. Irene began swimming over 35 years ago, and she qualified for her first Empire State Games in the mid-1980s. Currently, Irene trains at Sooty College at Brockport, where her late husband, Jerry DiAugustino, was head football coach in the 1970s. And whereas Irene plans to compete in the next Summer National Senior Games, which will be held in Minneapolis, Minnesota in 2015. Irene's dedication and athletic ability is admirable. Her drive to compete and be successful is an inspiration for the entire community. We congratulate her on her achievements and wish her continued success in future competitions. Now, therefore, we, Jeffrey R. Adair, President, and Mike Rocco, Legislator, District 2, on behalf of the citizens of Monroe County, do hereby recognize and congratulate Irene DiAugustino on her many swim achievements, including placing at the 2013 National Swim Games. Congratulations.
Well, I know she said half of what I was going to say, but I might have to repeat it. I'm honored to receive this award from the Monroe County legislatures. Thank you very much. Now, I was going to tell you how I got into competitive swimming at the age of 55. So when I had 4 young people who swam for high school, age group, and college. And so I was a teacher, and I had to give up teaching so that I could take care of them and also drive them around, so I became kind of like a taxi. And so when my youngest daughter was 12 years old, she was swimming at the MCC Marauders swim team, and her coach was Steve Lockey at the time, and he had said to the parents, if you want to use the diving well to practice swimming, you could. That way you wouldn't have to sit on the bleachers and wait for your kids to finish swimming. So Anne-Marie kept saying, Mom, you can do it, you can do it. So finally I decided I could do it, and I went in the diving well and practiced swimming with the few parents who wanted to do that. They didn't last too long, but I kept on going. And so before long, Steve had a master's swim meet at MCC, and I did pretty good, so I even did good enough to swim in Empire State Games, which was in I'll have to look at my notes, in Syracuse. I shouldn't forget that. And so from then on, I was hooked on swimming. And I swam for about 20 years with the MCC Masters program. And we swam not age group yet. You have to be a senior to do that. We swam state meets and national meets. And so when I was 75, I swam the mile in Empire State Games. And by that time, I became a distance swimmer. So I decided I was going to take a break from swimming and just rest. So I did. And after about a month, I decided to go back to swimming because I had another swim meet coming up. So at that time, I was swimming at the college at Brockport Pool, and I hopped in the pool, and I tried to swim, and I couldn't breathe. So I wasn't too worried about that, and I got out of the water, and I said, I'll come back again tomorrow, which I did, and I came back another day, and I did, and I still couldn't breathe. So it turned out that I had 2 stents. A month later, I had 2 stents in my heart, and I had 3 blockages in my main artery and was ready for a major heart attack. So knowing that I had really wanted to keep swimming, I kept trying for 2 years, but I just could not do it. So in 2008, I decided Oh, yeah. I was still swimming, and I couldn't breathe, and I lost 26 pounds. And so a month after that, quiet, a month after that, it turned out that I had lung cancer, and I lost part of my lungs. So then I thought, uh-oh, I won't be able to swim again. Well, after resting and recuperating about 6 to 8 weeks, I was longing to get some exercise and get back in the pool. So I kept on going, trying. I was exercising and swimming. And in 2012, there was a senior swim meet, which was a qualifier for the nationals at Cortland State. And I thought, I think I feel good enough to do that. So I did, and I qualified for senior nationals. And I went to Cleveland, Ohio, and the results are... Thank you all. But anyways, I'm not finished. So I want to tell all of you who have always wanted to do something and put it off, to just go ahead and do it. It's not too late. Just do it. Thank you very much.
Would the Brighton High School team or Envirothon team please come forward? Also, President Jeffrey R. Adair and legislators Joshua Baroth, Justin Wilcox, and Richard Yolovich. Whereas Brighton High School beat out 6 area high schools, including Brockport High School, Churchville-Chili High School, East Ridge High School, the Rochester City School District Northeast College Prep, and Our Lady of Mercy High School, to represent Monroe County at the New York State Envirothon. The team finished 8th out of 47 teams in the state competition at SUNY Morrisville. And whereas the team's knowledge was put to the test as members including Maddie Carter, Peter Cumbo, Hia Gosh, Sarah Spear, and Chandrika Sanapola had 25 minutes to complete an exam as they moved through Ellison Park. The exam was divided into different topics, ranging from aquatics to forestry. And whereas the students in Monroe County would not be able to participate in such an event without supporters, such as the Monroe County Parks Department, RIT, the Bank of Castile, Finger Lakes Systems Chemistry, and others. Therefore, let it be known that we, Jeffrey R. Adair, President, Joshua Baroth, Legislator District 24, Richard Yolovich, Legislator District 1, and Justin Wilcox, Legislator District 14, on behalf of the entire Monroe County Legislature, do hereby honor the Brighton High School Envirothon team for representing Monroe County at the New York State Envirothon competition and finishing 8th out of 47 teams statewide. Congratulations.
Thank you for the honor. It's a pleasure to work with fine students such as these.
Would Mr. Leroy Pugh and Mr. Raymond Page please come forward? Also, President Jeffrey R. Dare and Legislator Glenn Gamble. Legislator Carrie Andrews. Whereas Mr. Leroy Pugh and Mr. Raymond Page showed heroism as they attempted to save the life of 20-year-old Carlos, a fellow employee, after he was stabbed in the neck with a sharp instrument, in turn suffering serious injuries. And whereas in recognizing that Carlos's condition required immediate medical attention, Mr. Leroy Pugh and Mr. Raymond Page acted in a swift manner by tending to the wound and rushing the victim to the hospital. And whereas both Leroy Pugh and Raymond Page displayed the ability to take immediate action in assisting their fellow employee, their acts illustrate courage and heroism, among other remarkable qualities. And whereas their acts of heroism are a reminder to the county that heroes walk among us, they stand as role models in our community and true representations of the power of helping others. Therefore, let it be known that we, Jeffrey R. Dare, President, Carrie Andrews, Democratic Minority Leader, Willie J. Lightfoot, Assistant Minority Leader, Cindy Cayley, Assistant Minority Leader, and Glenn J. Gamble, Legislator District 22, on behalf of the entire Monroe County Legislature, do hereby honor Mr. Leroy Pugh and Mr. Raymond Page for their courage and heroism. Congratulations and thank you.
My name's Irving Feldman. I own the fish market that these two guys work at. All right, and I just wanted to say a couple things. What's amazing is that I didn't realize that we and Ray knew anything else than how to sell fish and cut fish. All right, it's unbelievable how quick they were to react when when they realized that one of their friends and coworker, Carlos, was in trouble. They just ran over to him, to his aid, took matters into their own hands, stopped the bleeding, rushed him to the hospital in the fish van, and just by their action, the two guys, I'm just proud of them, all right? What I later heard from the people at the hospital is if Ray and we hadn't done what they did, Carlos wouldn't be here today. They saved their friend's life. You gotta love them, all right? I wanna,
Would representatives from the Northeast Area Development, Inc. please come forward? Also, President Jeffrey R. Dare and Legislator Carrie M. Andrews. Whereas the nonprofit neighborhood organization Northeast Area Development, Inc. serves to stabilize the Sector 8 neighborhood with the dedication from volunteers and city officials. And whereas their mission is to enhance the lives of the citizens of their neighborhood through encouragement of business development, community gatherings, housing enhancements, and assisting in educational, cultural, recreational, and social activities. They continue to encourage the role of the city to improve the community. And whereas, through their dedication to vitalizing the quality of life for their neighborhood, they were able to aid Mr. George Moses in building and incorporating a healthy grocery store into their neighborhood with the hopes that they will help lead people to living healthier lifestyles. Therefore, let it be known that we, Jeffrey R. Adair, President, and Carrie M. Andrews, Democratic Minority Leader, on behalf of the entire Monroe County Legislature, do hereby honor the Northeast Area Development, Inc. for their tireless service to our community. Congratulations.
I just wanted to say quickly on behalf of Northeast Area Development and the Northeast Area community, we humbly accept this proclamation and we thank you. There's still a lot of work to be done within these communities, but with the partnership of city, state, and local communities, we thank you and we honor you. Thank you.
Legislators, you have in your folders the approved minutes from the last cycle. There are no formal committee reports scheduled for this evening. We'll now hold the public forum. We have several people registered to address the legislature. Madam Clerk.
Would the following 3 people please come forward to address the legislature? Each speaker will have 2 minutes in which to provide your remarks, and we ask that you kindly conclude when the timer sounds and exit through the clerk's office. Our first 3 speakers will be Sister Grace Miller, to be followed by Marcus Joyner and Rita Lewis. Please come forward.
We're not going anywhere. You may not have seen us for a while, but we're not going anywhere. We're going to continue coming here until you understand what compassion and justice for the poor means, and your responsibility to make sure the poor are treated as God wishes them to be treated by you. Article 17, Section 1 of the New York State Constitution states, "The aid, care, and support of the needy are public concerns and shall be provided by the state and by such as its subdivisions," meaning you, the county. Archbishop Oscar Romero cries out, "Defense of human rights, equality, and freedom is not only a matter of policy. It is a matter of policy, but a policy rooted in the gospel. The gospel is the great defender and proclaimer of all the fundamental rights of the person, and the gospel will not fail. It will always cry out for human freedom and human dignity, for the poor who are living and the poor who are dying, the very ones you choose to ignore. You Republicans, under the dictates of Maggie Brooks, are denying the poor their fundamental rights. You walk with your heads up high, pretending the poor do not exist. As the poor are getting poorer under you, you are getting richer, wealthier, and haughtier. But no one, not even you, can ignore the words of Scripture. Just because you are legislators, you are not above Scripture. You are not above the law of God, and the law of God is only one: love. Jesus speaks in Luke 6, "Blessed are the poor, blessed are the hungry, blessed you who are weeping now, blessed you when you are abused, ignored, and oppressed." And then Luke goes on to say, "But alas, for you who are rich, you are having your consolation now. Alas for you who have plenty to eat now, you shall go hungry. Alas for you who are laughing now, you shall mourn and weep. Alas for you when everyone speaks so well of you." I hope that every time you are eating sumptuously, every time you are laughing heartily, every time you are ridiculously proud of your title, riches, and position, and lord it over the poor, I hope that these words of Jesus in Luke haunt you.
Yeah, I'm here on behalf of the Poor People's Coalition, and we're seeking to raise funds because we're depleted on how we could handle or bury our poor people. So we're looking for not only ideas, but also support from the Democrats and Republicans. I think that both parties working together can probably help solve the problem, because being poor isn't one party's problem, it's everybody's problem. So what I'd like to have happen would be come up with some ideas of what we can do, a fundraiser, put together some type of project to where we're able to raise funds every year to be able to hold an event to where we'll be able to start a fund to where we're able to fund any person who comes into our door who needs assistance on, being buried. We'd like to be able to give the people a choice on whether it's cremation or burial. If we don't respect the dead, then we leave the living to disrespect us. And I think that since we're in Rochester, this is a great city. We have Susan B. Anthony, we had Frederick Douglass, and they'd be proud of what they did. So maybe we could start ourselves, to set a new standard. Maybe here we can change the process. Maybe we could put a project together where in Obama's health care package, there's a $5,000 package, $5,000 insurance policy to where if someone dies that's insured, they get buried. Nobody's thought of that, but I think it would be cheaper, and it would probably be an answer to what we face every day. And if we don't take responsibility ourselves, 40 years from now, we'll be looking at the same thing. A problem that's there and no one is fixing. And the poor isn't going anywhere, they're multiplying. Thank you.
Our next three speakers will be Reverend Alan Newton, to be followed by Roberta Borg and Mary Lupine, or Lupian.
We're going to go in a slightly different order, but we're all here.
Good evening. My name is Rakia Green, Ra. I would like to share my story with you as it relates to being a working parent and needing child care assistance in order to work. My director got an email from the Children's Agenda asking if there were parents that would like to speak on behalf of themselves and also other working parents who need assistance in order to, child care assistance in order to work. And I've been in the field of early education for about 5 years, and I absolutely love it. I especially love it because I know that I am energetic and able enough to be the teacher that working parents need for their children. Ironically, I am also one of those parents, and the cost for child care is too expensive for my budget. When I began back to work this summer after maternity leave, I debated whether to stay home and struggle or work to pay for child care. So I had my children with me for 2 months where I worked, and then I moved them to a home group care for almost 2 months, and that got too expensive. Then now they are at another home care with a friend of mine who actually gave me a little more of a deal. But the cost, is a lot less than I would have paid, but it still takes a lot out of my income that I really can't afford. I'm not only speaking for myself, but as I said, for other families, working families that we serve, where I work at the Jefferson Avenue Childhood Development Center. The child care is one of the most important needs in our society, in our communities. So let my voice and other voices of parents be heard. We need child care assistance, and I currently work at a daycare center, and my director always advocates for them, for our clients, and makes an attempt to make them, make the funds available and as well as give them the assistance that they need. Personally, I would rather have my children with me in daycare and be able to afford it and maintain my other household expenses. I trust with what I'm saying will make a difference in your decision toward providing more assistance for working families. Thank you very much.
Would the next speaker please come forward and state your name?
Hi, my name is Mary Lupian, and I received the child care subsidy, and I'd like to share a little bit of my story. We've been on the subsidy for about a year. Before that, things were a little bit harder. We looked into some home daycare options, and the quality of care just wasn't there. I thought a lot of safety violations, and I didn't like having to feel like that was my choice or to stay home. Now she's in since receiving the subsidy, a much higher quality care, and I noticed a difference immediately in her vocabulary and her development. Being in the high quality care made such a huge difference. If I didn't have the subsidy, my life would be very different. I'm so thankful that I have it, and I know that if I was one of those people that qualify and the funds aren't there, how frustrated I would be knowing that I had access to that care, but that I was eligible for that care but didn't have access to it. So the $1 million in extra funding that we're asking for would make a huge difference in the lives of many people. In the daycare that she goes to now, there are several families that are funded, and I know to speak for them as well how much of a difference it makes in their lives. And myself, I'm on the border of the income eligibility. And if I made just a little bit more, I'd have $900 extra a month to afford, and I'd just be crushed. I don't know what I would be able to do. So I ask that you provide this extra funding that we're looking for so that the other families that are like mine will be able to have the quality of life and quality of care that we have. So thank you.
Hello. I'm Roberta Borg, a Brighton resident. I am a past co-chair of the Interfaith Children's Sabbath, past president of the Rochester Jewish Community Federation, and currently a member of the board of the Children's Agenda. Most important tonight is that I'm a grandmother of 7 children who are living in the Rochester area. Having been availed of good quality preschool care, homes where books are most important, parents who are their advocates, we know that they've had access to the best. Tonight, I represent those parents of the city of Rochester who, as part of what is termed the working poor, want the same things for their children that I wanted for mine, that my children want for theirs, and that you want for yours. A decent chance to learn to read by grade 3 so that their academic futures will be bright and they can fulfill their God-given promise. As a literacy volunteer through the Jewish Community Federation, I saw the excitement and joy of kindergartners turn to frustration and defeat in those 3rd graders in our classroom who struggled with reading comprehension. When we come to you to ask for additional funds for the $1 million extra for the county to support opportunities for children's subsidies, child care subsidies, for hardworking people, we do it knowing that you understand all too well the impact of this early intervention and what it means in the success or failure of these city children. Thank you so much for your support. We're really counting on it.
Good evening. I'm Reverend Alan Newton, Executive Minister for American Baptist Churches. I provide oversight for 43 congregations, 3/4 of which are in Monroe County. We are joined in support of the Interfaith Child Care Coalition weekend to advocate, as you've heard already, for $1 million increase in local funding of subsidies for low-income working families in 2014. This will support approximately 150 additional families. You probably know some of the history. Since 2001, there's been a loss of 6,535 child care subsidy slots in Monroe County. Only 40% of the eligible families, working families, are receiving support, 40%. So we're asking for a little bit more to make a difference, knowing that we're going to keep pushing until we get to 100% of child care subsidies. We've been advocating in the state, we advocate in the federal government, we advocate here in Monroe County. Last year we were successful in advocating for an increase in state funding. Monroe County, however, did not spend all of its state allocation in 2012, which was part of the reason why we did not receive an increase this year. In fact, our subsidy from the state allocation was reduced by $725,000 this year. So a step in the direction would be this modest increase of $1 million. It's a lot of money, I know that, but in the realm of the whole budget, you know, it's a relatively small amount. Working families is important for the economy of Monroe County. We've seen in studies that have been done in England where Tony Blair, during his years, they were advocating to reduce poverty. One of the key strategies was increased subsidies for child care and making a difference. So we encourage you to consider this modest request. Thank you.
This concludes the public forum.
At this time, we'll recess the October 8th, 2013 meeting of the Monroe County Legislature and convene the Pure Waters. Can you hear me, David? Now you can hear me, right? All right. And convene the Pure Waters Administration Board for the Rochester Pure Waters District and the Northwest Quadrant Pure Waters District. The clerk will please note the attendance and read the item on the agenda.
PWAB 1, referral 13-274.
Moved by Legislator Daniele, second by Legislator Yolovich. This is a motion to adopt. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. We will now recess both the Pure Waters, Rochester Pure Waters District and the Northwest Quadrant Pure Waters District and adjourn the Pure Waters Administration Board. The October 8th, 2013 meeting of the Legislature is now reconvened. We will proceed now with the considerations of motions, resolutions, and notices. Will the clerk please read the next item on the agenda?
The entire agenda for the evening.
Do I have a second? That's items 1 through 13. Is that correct? Is there any discussion at this time? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. Is there any unfinished business to come before this body tonight? Legislator Tucciarello.
Mr. President, the next meeting of the Monroe County Legislature is scheduled for Tuesday, November 12, 2013 at 6 p.m. Thank you, everyone.